Secretary, San Mateo County Planning Department, Michelle Rodriguez, Roundtable Coordinator, Jean Rindale, Aviation Technical Consultant for HMMH. We also have Lisa Osada, Deputy Director, Planning and Building Department, County of San Mateo, Victoria Mejia, Administrative Services Manager, County of San Mateo, Linda Wallen, Senior Aide Supervisor Pine, Bert Ganong, San Francisco International Airport Noise Abatement Manager, Kathleen Wentworth, Senior Advisor for Congresswoman Spears, and I believe Brian Perkins, District Director for Congresswoman Spears, is with us or will be joining us. At this point, Ms. Montes will explain how the public can participate in tonight's meeting. Ms. Montes?
Vice Chairman Hindi. For those joining the meeting on the Zoom video conference, we will use the raise hand feature in order to organize any public comments. During the general public comment periods, I will ask those members of the public who wish to comment to click the raise hand feature to speak on that agenda item. For those joining by phone, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. When you hear your name called, I will prompt you to unmute your microphone and inform you that you may begin speaking. You will have 2 minutes. Thank you. And I do want to note that I have been trying to promote Ms. Schneider over, but I don't know if she's having a glitch, but I am aware and I just haven't had any success getting her over. So sorry about that.
Through the chair, I think I'm here.
Oh,
Thank you, Mayor Schneider. Perfect.
Sorry to interrupt.
No worry, not at all. Thank you so much. Well, thank you, Ms. Montes. And now we will move on to roll call. Ms. Rodriguez will take the roll.
Thank you. City and County of San Francisco. No response. City and County of San Francisco Mayor's Office. No response. I thought I saw Lauren Chung here. Let me try City and County of San Francisco Board of Supervisors. I can see her here, so I'm going to mark her as present. City and County of San Francisco Airport Commission.
Good evening, Ivar's on.
Thank you. San Mateo County Board of Supervisors. I don't see Dave here yet. And Carol Ford said she was not going to make it. Town of
Pine is unable to attend.
Thank you. Town of Atherton.
Here, Bill Whitmer.
Thank you. City of Belmont.
Tom McEwen, present for Belmont.
Thank you. City of Brisbane.
Harry O'Connell,
Thank
Brisbane.
you. City of Daly City.
Pamela DiGiovanni, present.
Thank you. City of Foster City.
M. Hindi.
Thank you. City of Half Moon Bay. No response. Town of Hillsborough.
Al Royce for Hillsborough.
Thank you. City of Menlo Park.
Celia Taylor, present.
Hi, Cecilia. City of Millbrae.
And Schneider, present.
Thank you. City of Pacifica.
Here, Mike O'Neill.
Thank you, Mike. Town of Portola Valley.
Jeff Alves, present.
Thank you. City of Redwood City. Jeff said he was going to be unable to make it. I don't think Gazelle is on. City of San Bruno.
Tom Hamilton here.
Thank you. City of San Carlos. No response. City of San Mateo. City of South San Francisco.
Mark Adiego here.
Thank you. Town of Woodside.
John Carvel here.
Thank you. You do have a quorum, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. At this point, I would like to move on to public comments. This is a time for the members of the public who would like to make comments on items that are not on the agenda. And I would give that to Ms. Montes to explain how you could do that.
we are now taking public comment on items not on the agenda. And Mr. Vice Chair, we did not receive any written comments for items not on the agenda, but I do see one hand raised from Ms. Darlene Gapley, and actually I see a second hand raised. So I'm going to now ask Janet to put up the timer. And Ms. Yapley, please accept this request to unmute your microphone and begin speaking. 1 second.
Hi, Angela. 1 second. I'm trying to go ahead and post it. There you go. Go ahead. Please proceed. Can you hear me?
Sorry, I just got the message. This
Okay.
is Darlene Yapley. This is Darlene Yapley. I wanted to comment the recent GAO study, and thank you to Kathleen to doing a memo on that that's in the packet. The GAO study cited the San Francisco airport and the Oakland airport as examples of using the new and above metric. But I contacted the Oakland airport and they're not familiar with that it was used in a recent procedure to help the community understand impacts. So I wanted to ask if SFO Bert or the consultant Jean or the FAA Favi are aware of the usage at SFO Airport in Oakland for a new procedure using and above so that we can understand how the real impacts are to all of us. So if you have that, could you share that with us? It's pretty important because it's a best practice of using the recommended GAO supplemental metrics that could be helpful for the whole community to understand real impacts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Yapley, I will now call on Jim Brisbane. Please accept this request to unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Hello.
Jim from Brisbane. Yes, go ahead.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yes, I just have, I guess, a Zoom procedural question for now. I'm wondering in these meetings, these public meetings, if you're able to show a list of either a count or I guess an attendees boxes so attendees can have an idea of maybe not who's in attendance, but the number of attendees and as well as participants. So we can gauge sort of, I don't know how well the meeting is attended. So I don't know if you can do that, if there's some conflict with the Brown Act or anything, but, and I guess you can't answer this question, but I'd appreciate it if you could look into it and somehow respond, or I could put it in writing. That's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I will now call on Jennifer Landisman. Ms. Landisman, please accept this request to unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Hi, I'm following up on the question about how many people attend the roundtable meetings. I have previously contacted the roundtable because one of my concerns is that your email lists go to interested parties. So the broader public is really not aware about what your activities are or the roundtable activities are. Goes the same for the Santa Clara roundtable. And this is a really big concern because you may think that you are interacting and engaging with the public, but to my knowledge, there is no interaction with the public other than quote unquote interested parties attending these meetings. And the member cities, as far as I know, do not engage with the public by letting the public know all the activities of the roundtable. At least that's what happens with the Santa Clara roundtable. And so I think this is a really big topic because the public is really being kept in the dark about what's actually happening, and all of your discussions should really not be counted as interactions with the public, maybe with elected officials. And as I have previously provided input, I'm concerned about all of the GBAS meetings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Landis.
I think just for the record, Michelle Rodriguez speaking, there are a number of ways to find out the number of attendees at meetings during Zoom calls. You can look at the participant list and open up the attendees or panelists list. You can also refer to the minutes and you can see how many people are in attendance, how many people have spoken. I think in terms of our municipal representatives, they normally report activities at the variety of meetings that they attend during their council meetings, which are also open to the public. All of our meetings are agendized that are public related. So it's an important point to speak to. Thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Any more members of the public who would like to speak on item not on the agenda?
Chairman, we do not have any more hand raised.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Then with that, I will move on to the next item, item 1 and 2 consent agenda.
I'm sorry, Vice Chairman. As soon as we were going to close, Mr. Peter Grace raised his hand, so I will leave that up to you to allow him to speak.
Okay, Mr. Grace, go ahead.
Thank you. 1 second. Mr. Grace, please accept this request to unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
My apologies, I've come late. I wasn't sure where we were on the agenda, and I would like to talk about something later. So thank you very much. I'm stopping.
All right, thank you, Mr. Grace.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, then, Ms. Montes, anybody else?
We do not have any members of the public with their hands raised for items.
Thank you so much. With that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to items 1 and 2 of the consent agenda. I would consider setting the agenda and taking action on the consent agenda items. But before doing that, I would like to move item number 5, which is approve the remote meetings resolution, to number 3, and moving the other 2 items down after this item. Is there any members of the public would like to comment on setting the agenda or consent agenda items 1 and 2?
We do have one hand raised from members of the public, and I will ask all of our panelists and members to please mute your microphone because I am getting background noise. So I do have one hand raised, and I also see member Schneider's hand raised, but since we opened up public comment, I'm going to call on Mr. Peter Grace. So please accept this request to unmute your microphone and begin speaking. Janet, can we bring the timer back up, please?
Mr. Grace?
Mr. Grace?
Hi, this is Rebecca Ward. I actually think you unmuted me before Peter. If you can hear me, that's true.
This is Peter Grace speaking. Can I speak after? Can I ask for another exception, Chairman, Vice Chair, to go and speak after Anne Schneider and hear what she says? So I'd like to be able to speak after Anne Schneider, if that's possible.
Thank you, Mr. Grace. At this point, I'm taking public comments, so let's go ahead and proceed with public comments, and I'll go back to members. If you have your comments, please go ahead.
Angela, can you put up the slide I sent you 2 days ago?
Okay. If we're doing that, then I have to put the timer kind of off to the side, and it won't be posted on the screen, so we can't do both.
I think the point is that Mr. Grace has submitted a letter to the membership asking for, I thought it was the airport director's report for the month of, I think he said July, to be pulled. And so that's his request. If the request is yes, you'll pull that, then we refer to his slide for him to give his presentation, but his ask is to pull the minute.
Is that your request, Mr. Grace, to pull item 1 on the director's report?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Noted.
Thank you, Chairman. And I do have one more hand raised by Ms. Rebecca Ward. So Ms. Ward, please accept this request to unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Hi, this is Rebecca Ward. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I also wanted to get the airport director's report pulled so I could comment on that. So does that have to happen first, or may I make a comment related to the report?
You have a request to remove it, and that's what they wanted to hear.
Okay.
Okay. So, Ms. Rodriguez, are we going to go vote on the balance of the consent agenda, or are we going to go ahead and
That's
take the director report?
the request would be, is there any member of the roundtable that wants to pull the airport director's report? If yes, then you would separate them, take the action on the remainder consent calendar item, and then separate and move the airport director's report to a discussion item, and then take the public comment on that.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move the agenda with the change suggested by you, with item 5 being moved to item 3. And secondly, I move that consent item 2 be approved. And thirdly, that I request that item number 1 be pulled and moved down to the discussion items.
Okay, thank you, Member Royce. Do I have a second?
Member Schneider seconds.
Thank you, Member Schneider. Ms. Rodriguez, would you please take the roll?
I will. City and County of San Francisco Board of Supervisor. No response. Am I muted? No. Okay. City and County of San Francisco Airport Commission.
Hey.
Thank you. Town of Atherton.
Aye.
Thank you. Town of City of Belmont. No response. City of Brisbane.
Aye.
Thank you. City of Daly City.
Aye.
Thank you. City of Foster City.
Yes.
Thank you. Town of Hillsborough.
Yes.
Thank you. City of Menlo Park.
Yes.
Thank you. City of Millbrae.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. City of Pacifica.
Yes.
Thank you. Town of Portola Valley.
Yes.
Thank you. City of San Bruno.
Yes.
Thank you. City of South San Francisco.
Yes.
Thank you. Town of Woodside.
Yes.
Thank you. Your motion passes, so your consent calendar is approved. So that's approval of the minutes. Shifting the airport directors are now, reports are now available for discussion, and moving item 5 up to item 3.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Any member on the roundtable would like to discuss the director's report or have questions?
Mr. Chairman, I pull them at the request of the public, so I would yield my time to the public.
Thank you, Member Royce. With that,
Through the chair,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm in a different place than I normally am at roundtables. I can raise and lower my hand, but I don't think anybody sees it. There's the join as panelist.
Okay, I see your hand, Mayor Schneider. Would you like to speak on the director report? Mayor Schneider?
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, staff, for bringing me into the main group. I read the minutes from back in June or August where it says I won't be voting for the director's report because it doesn't really reflect the type of noise that is experienced by my community. But, and Michelle, correct me in the right process here. We may be having a ground-based noise meeting in December. And on that agenda will be an item to look at the existing director's report and try to find where we can find different data that better reflects low frequency noise, backblast noise, things like that. And I don't know if it's appropriate for me to tell the public or anyone, if you have data points that you think would work, please send them my way so that we have them prepared for that December meeting.
That's accurate. And I think you also, the technical working group is going to take on this question of the update to the director's report. And we sent some initial inquiries to Bert for discussion and for consideration. So we've got both Bert and our aviation consultant starting to talk about this before those meetings. So you are correct.
Excellent. Thank you. And sorry, I missed the last working group. It was Cal Cities.
Thank you, Mayor Schneider. Okay, any other member on the roundtable would like to comment or have questions? Seeing none, thank you. I will go ahead and move to the public at this point. We take Mr. Grace. He was the first one to raise a question. Mr. Grace.
Chairman, I will now call on Mr. Grace to accept this request. Unmute your microphone and begin speaking as soon as your time starts.
Could you put up the slide I sent you, please?
Oh, that is correct. Sorry about that. I will put up your slide and then Janet will run the timer.
I'll do on the side.
And let us know when your time comes up.
Let me know when we start.
Thank you, Janet. Let me pull up. Here you go.
Can you pull up the slide, not this? There was an attachment that I gave.
1 second.
Pull up the attachment. This isn't my, this is what I sent, but this is not, I want the
That is
attachment.
the
Yeah,
written
that's it.
comment attached with and this.
Okay. I'm really speaking to the round table, who will not be able to be at the technical working group to talk about noise monitors. And this is a report that comes from Reagan National Airport from the noise monitoring unit. And they describe the criteria they use and methods they use for counting noise. And I would like to look at the first highlight and read. It says, prior to 2015, the airport's authority noise monitors detect a noise event when the noise level exceeded a noise threshold for a minimum duration. This is the method that SFO is using to report on noise events that's occurring in each monitor. The method they're using, as you hear from Anne Schneider and others, does not reflect the experience of the people on the ground. And then he talks about the technology having challenges, and he lists them. And he lists then a thing called a NEAMS. And he says, as of 2015, the airport authority became the first US airport system to upgrade its noise monitoring software to a new noise event detection methodology called a NEAM. Then the last highlight below, it says, a NEAMS provides a more accurate detection methodology for distinguishing aircraft noise from other noise sources experienced in neighboring communities. So I'm really asking, why is SFO continuing to use a methodology that is not as accurate as other proven methodologies that have been in use since 2015 at Reagan and Dulles Airport? And this is a great source of, I hope the roundtable realize that it has the authority to ask the airport to create reports that use the Reagan and Dulles Airport methodology to count noise events. It's really important that residents and elected officials should be given accurate data. This has not happened.
30 seconds.
Thirdly, SFO needs to explain why they're not willing to use a NEAMS to report noise events in the director's report. This question has been raised before, but remains unanswered. I hope the roundtable will pick this up and ask directly at the SFO noise office why there's this roadblock. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Grace. Now we would move on to Ms. Ward.
Board, please accept this request to unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Hi, I've spoken about this topic before, and I'd like to bring it up again. I know there are a number of new members and a number of folks have seen the airport director's report. One thing I would like to request is that it actually be an agenda item. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is it does show what the community is saying to SFO via noise complaints. And so I think that's worth discussion. But it also shows what routes the airport and the FAA are using to bring flights in. Are they using the approaches that go over the bay, or are they using the ones that go over people? And what you've seen repeatedly, even during the pandemic, when traffic was down by 50%, that the FAA shifted traffic over communities on both the Bodega route, which goes down the peninsula, as well as on the Surfer route. And they took them off the Diamond route, which is the route that goes over the east side. And if you look at the noise report, you'll see that there are no noise complaints at all over there because flights enter the bay 3,000 feet higher there and over compatible land. But the FAA will shift those flights often for efficiency from places like JFK, Albuquerque.
Ms. Ward,
Yes.
excuse me. If you could keep your comments to the item, the director's report, what the FAA is doing and not doing.
Well, no,
is
that's
nothing.
included. I'm sorry. That is included in there. It shows the routes that they're using. So if you look at the report, maybe that's why it's worth maybe taking another look at it. It shows what % of the traffic goes on Diamond, Bodega, Surfer, and then which portions of it go over the bay with the down the bay approach, which was down to 15% and 85% went over communities. So that's what I'm saying is I actually think there's some very useful information in here that helps us understand how traffic is impacting communities. And that's, so I appreciate the time.
No, I understand. Thank you so much. I do understand, and I looked at the report, but I heard in your comments you were asking things of the FAA. That's why I interjected, but thank you for your comment. Okay, any other members of the public? I don't see any raised hands from the public. Ms. Montes, anybody else from the public that you see?
That is correct, Mr. Vice Chair. We do not have any hands raised.
Thank you, Ms. Montes. I see Member Widmer's hand is up.
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment. I had read that same report that was presented to us by the gentleman earlier. And I'd like to recommend that the roundtable consider asking the director to tell us what it would take to move to the more accurate Reagan noise monitoring capabilities, and then also give us a date as to when he might be able to transition. I think that's a very appropriate question. I appreciate it being brought forward. And I had a mark there to also bring this up. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Member Widmer. I see Ms. Rodriguez wants to say something.
And just clarifying, the technical working group on 11/24 and the GBN on 12/30 are going to be looking at the director's report. That would be the appropriate time to look into this more closely, and I'll make sure that that document that Mr. Grace submitted is part of the attachment for discussion, and we'll work with the technical consultants a bit more on that.
Great, thanks.
Very good, thank you. Anybody else, any members of the roundtable have any questions? Okay, with that, then I'm gonna go ahead and move
Through
on.
the chair, Chair Hindi, I'm sorry, this is Ann Schneider again. Just to follow up on the public member's comment, and perhaps Bert can give a better explanation. It is my understanding that the only complaints that actually get logged into the official report is when a noise complaint can be matched to an existing flight. That is why the low frequency noise complaints, which come from behind an airplane and generally, except perhaps gap departures from under an airplane, are not counted. And that is why I don't get my public to file reports, because I've been doing it for 6 years and waiting to see if the numbers show up on the director's report, but they won't, because you cannot correlate them with a specific flight. Now, I think the new monitors are supposed to be able to do a better job of correlating noise to flights that are not overhead. But Bert, correct me if I'm wrong. I read through some old minutes and I thought you were kind of agreeing, but if I'm wrong, I'll admit to being wrong. And then I'll start getting my public to file complaints.
Mayor Schneider, I think we're going to be handling this more on the technical working group subcommittee, and I think that would be probably the more appropriate venue for this. But your comments are noted, and I think you probably have the answer because you have commented on this before, and I've seen some communication from you. But I do
I know
thank you
it's
for your
just that the
comments.
Palo Altans seem to think that because they've got that many more numbers registered, that they're having a worse experience. That's a quote from previous meetings, and that just isn't the case. It's the case of the data not adequately reflecting the real experience. Thank you, Chair.
Understood. Thank you so much for your comment. Okay, with that, I would like.
That would be a
Yes.
very simple question to answer, if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
Mayor Schneider, do you recall when we deployed a noise monitor at your location and we stood on your back deck and we spoke, that I mentioned that we do record all noise complaints and we log them into our system? What we're looking for is a correlation to an aircraft noise event if we can, but that doesn't matter. We still log them all. We take everything in.
Thank you. So I think this could take a little bit longer. So that's why I would like to have this discussed at the technical working group. That is the best venue suited for this. But thank you, Mr. Ganong, for the quick response. And I'm going to go ahead and move on. We got a pretty solid agenda. We're going to need to keep moving. Thank you so much, everyone. With that, I'm going to go ahead and take on item number 3 on the regular agenda, approve the remote meeting resolution. The provisions for teleconferences, remote meetings were scheduled to fully sunset on October 1st. Governor Newsom has offered an alternate to public agencies to continue to use teleconferencing. Ms. Rodriguez included a staff memo in your packet and resolution for our adoption. Michelle, if you could review this in some details, would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. So Governor Newsom issued Executive Order N-0821, which waived through September the 30th of 2021 certain provisions of the Brown Act related to teleconferencing and remote meetings. On September 16th, 2021, the governor signed AB 361, which allows public or local agencies to continue using teleconferencing or waive the provision of required physical presence of members in particular locations as a condition of participation or as a quorum of a public meeting. The provided resolution in your packet finds that there's a need for teleconferencing to continue due to dangers related to in-person meetings that are posed by the ongoing state of emergency continuing from COVID-19. And we have the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, determining that our local rates of transmission of COVID-19 are still at the substantial tier. So at some time in the future, when that reduces to less than a substantial tier, then we would come back with a different action. But until then, we're recommending that you approve the urgency legislation, which right now could be used through January 1 of 2024, but would require periodic renewal. Future agendas, if you approve it, would contain this renewal on your consent agenda until such time as we go below that substantial tier. So my recommendation is to approve the resolution provided in your packet.
And I'm so sorry, excuse me, through the chair, we did not actually take action on approving the director's report. So we need to go back. We only took public comment, but we still need to do a motion. And you're muted, Vice Chair.
Thank you for that, Ms. Montes. With that being said, I will entertain a motion to approve item number 1, the director's report.
So moved, Terry O'Connell.
Thank you, Member O'Connell. Any second?
Second, Bill Widmer.
Thank you, Mr. Widmer. With that, Ms. Rodriguez, please.
City and County of San Francisco Board of Supervisor. City and County of San Francisco Airport Commission.
Aye.
Thank you. Town of Atherton.
Aye.
City of Belmont.
Aye.
City of Brisbane.
Aye.
Thank you. City of Daly City.
Aye.
City of Foster City.
Yes.
Town of Hillsborough.
Yes.
City of Menlo Park.
Yes.
City of Millbrae.
No.
City of Pacifica.
Yes.
Town of Portola Valley.
Yes.
Thank you. City of San Bruno.
Yes.
City of South San Francisco.
Yes.
Town of Woodside.
Yes.
Your motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. So I apologize for the confusion, but we'll go back to the approval of the remote meetings resolution. Thank you for your report, Mr. Rodriguez. Any comments from members? I don't see any raised hands. And with that, then I'm going to go ahead and ask if any members of the public has any comments on remote meeting resolution. Ms. Montes?
Thank you. And just a reminder for those calling by phone, you may press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. But Vice Chair, we do not have any hands raised for this item.
Thank you so much. Then I'm looking for a motion to approve resolution number 21-01 to continue remote meetings due to COVID-19 pandemic.
So approved, and with an amendment that we also added each month or each meeting in the consent calendar.
Thank you, Member Woodmer. I'm sorry, who seconded it?
Tom Hamilton, San Bruno.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Rodriguez, would you please take the roll?
City and County of San Francisco Airport Commission.
Aye.
Town of Atherton.
Aye.
Thank you. City of Belmont.
Aye.
Thank you. City of Brisbane.
Aye.
Thank you. City of Daly City.
Aye.
Thank you. City of Foster City.
Yes.
Thank you. City of Half Moon Bay. Oh, a person's absent. Town of Hillsborough.
Yes.
City of Menlo Park.
Yes.
Thank you. City of Millbrae.
Yes.
Thank you. City of Pacifica.
Yes.
Town of Portola Valley.
Yes.
Thank you. City of San Bruno.
Yes.
Thank you. City of South San Francisco.
Yes.
Thank you. Town of Woodside.
Yes.
Your motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. I move on to item number 4, the approval of the 2021 budget amendment, and for staff report, Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you. I've been here for a year, and at the conclusion of the year, one of the best practices that we do, or that I do, as a closeout to the fiscal year is go back into the budgets to ensure that our contractual obligations are paid, to ensure that there are accurate charges against the trust, and that any checks that we've received from our members are actually assigned to the checks, and that there are not any wayward charges in their due reconciliation. And what we discovered this period was that there was no fiscal procedure in place to ensure that the county was paid for staff time and for the county to pay the trust. And what we found was that this had not been completed during the periods of 2015 through 2019. Another finding when we ran the full trust account was that the trust fund balance was higher than the adopted budget. The summary of the past owed staff costs are in your packet. We have an invoice from San Mateo County on packet page 39. And so that shows you the reconciliation showing staff costs owed for the period of 2015 through the 2019-20 budget of $311,000 and 347 cents. And this is based upon staff's submitted weekly time cards. And then shown at the bottom of that invoice is the county contributions for the money they should have paid the trust but did not. And so there's a net amount owed to the county of $275,347. Because that amount was due, was approved in your budget, was not paid, I've authorized that amount to be done. What you should know is that on page 32 of your packet, Angela prepared for you a comparison of your 2021 to 2022 approved budget with your $133. And so this is online. I'm sorry, I don't have a line in front of me, but it says fund balance of $133,687. And what we discovered is we had that higher fund balance net less the amount owed from the invoice. And so your remainder fund balance is that 390, which includes a portion of that 133 unpaid. So you have a significant more amount of money than you thought you did. And so what we also did was we ran that projection going forward through 2026 so you could see how, if we applied the same budget over time, what would be your year-end balances. So the good news is you have a higher fund balance. You're paid in full in terms of the county owed to the trust, and the county paid in full. From a staffing perspective, I'll be working on a fiscal procedure so that anyone in my place, as well as the fiscal staff at the county, will know that at year-end closed, we should be doing these actions. So what I'm recommending at this time is that you approve the amended budgets without changes to the work plan at this time. I would recommend that you wait until the membership expansion ad hoc subcommittee comes back to you with their recommendation. And if you feel at that time you want to reopen your work plan, we can do it. Or even with their recommendation, you could wait until the end of the fiscal year. We'll usually start on that around March of next year. We'll reorganize an ad hoc committee for budget and work plan, looking at the strategic plan and so on, and relook at it. So that is my recommendation at this point. I wanted to point out that we have available to answer any question Lisa Azusa, who's the Deputy Director of Planning and Building Department, as well as Victoria Mejia, who's the Administrative Services Manager for the County of San Mateo, who's been here much longer than I, and who can answer questions on past procedures or trust set accounting or any other related questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Let me just take a moment before I open it up to members of the roundtable to thank you for your due diligence and for finding these inaccuracies. The good news, as you have mentioned in your presentation and in your report, that we have a higher balance that we had thought, but definitely we need to put in process a system where these could not be overlooked in the future. Thank you so much. With that, I'm gonna go ahead and open it to member of the roundtable. I do see a hand raised by Member Whitmer.
Thank you, and thank you for the report. I have to say how shocked I am that we hadn't been doing this in the past years, and these mistakes have been made, both here as well as at the county level. You know, if somebody owed me $300,000, we'd make sure that we invoiced it. And so I was going to ask you about the procedure. You covered that you're writing a procedure which will be followed annually, and I think that that's great, so I appreciate that. But really, I mean, the amounts we were talking about were substantial, and I can't believe that that we had this issue on both sides of the equation. It was really shocking. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else? Let me see if I see Mayor Royce. Sorry, Al.
Yes, thank you, Sam. Just a quick question. I understand that Michelle, and good work on finding this. I commend you. But what was done was an internal audit. Have we ever had an external audit, or do we ever adopt a procedure where periodically we'd have an external audit of our procedures and funds and reconciliations?
I think I'll leave that to Lisa Azusa or Victoria Mejia to answer.
I'll try to answer that question. This is Victoria Mejia. Let me put my video on. Hi, good evening, Roundtable members. I joined the county in 2017. So I've only been with the county for 4 years. And so I believe the discrepancy started in 2015. In terms of external audit, I know that the controller, the county controller's office hires an external auditor that does audits of the various trust funds and the various funds in the county, but I believe it is they have their own schedule. And so I can't speak in terms of when we are due for an audit. It depends on the resources and what's the priority for that year. But we can certainly request, I believe, if we feel that it is appropriate to do an external audit. There will be some cost, obviously, but that's as far as I know. Since I've been in the county in 2017, I don't believe we've had an external audit of the Roundtable Trust. And Lisa, you may know more about me because you've been with the county longer than I have.
All right. Good evening, members of the Roundtable, and thanks for the opportunity to speak this evening. We appreciate the work that Michelle has done to get to the bottom of this, and are also dismayed to find that there has been some discrepancies in the past. I think, as Michelle points out in the report, it's primarily attributed to staff turnover. We've had a lot of turnover, both with our fiscal staff over the last 5 years or so, with the Roundtable staff as well. And so that together has led to some issues that I think we're on a good path now to fix. But in addition, we do have now dedicated admin staff for the Roundtable, which we didn't have before. So I think we'll be in a better situation going forward. I don't happen to know anything more specific about the external audit question, though. I apologize. I just don't know.
If I could add a comment, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
I appreciate the feedback, and I'm guessing that we've got the problem resolved. But I know when you do your regular audits, it's not uncommon. In fact, it's fairly common to add on a special add-on for specific items that you want the auditors to look at. Right. And I would suggest that when you go through the county auditor this year with your external auditor, that there be a look at the Roundtable budgeting process and the Roundtable allocation, just to be sure. When we have a number of this size, I want to make sure we can reassure the public that not only did we correct it, but an independent party verified that we got it corrected. So that's just my preference. Thank you.
That is correct.
Yes, Ms. Rodriguez.
I also just wanted to recognize Angela Montez, because she also participated in training to get access to running our reports for the Roundtable. She's now taking an active role in tracking invoices as they come in, that they're getting paid. She's been updating these budgets. So I think that has been extremely helpful, and I appreciate that expertise.
Yes,
thank you for that comment.
If I may add, I also want to add that we have separate from the Roundtable Trust, we have we call it OFAS, which is a county fiscal database that has all of the accurate information in terms of fiscal information, and Angela has been has access now to OFAS and has been trained, and we are here to support, Angela and Michelle. And I think moving forward, as Lisa said, I think we are in a better position now, so that moving forward, this will not happen again, and that also we are planning to have, as Michelle said, a process in place so that there's a standard procedure moving forward. So I appreciate Michelle and Angela and everyone's, understanding, but I believe that we are now at the point where we have corrected or resolved the issues that, and that there will not be any more problems moving forward.
Thank you, Ms. Mahia. I appreciate the comment, and thank you, Member Royce, for your very good questions, as well as Mr. Whitmer as well. Next, I do have Mayor Schneider has her raised up. Mayor Schneider.
Thank you, Vice Chair. My question goes to the work plan. So part of the reason we had an established work plan, and then we added the membership ad hoc committee, and that impacted staff time. Now that we have a little more money, is that why we're having the December ground-based noise meeting? Or was that going to be planned at any rate?
It was planned anyway. What I've been doing is every month between meetings, I've been doing a technical working group meeting, and then alternating between legislative and ground-based noise. And so it's your turn.
Okay, so in the previous years before you joined us, then when ground-based met 4 or 5 times in a year, that's probably when we weren't as active with the legislative committee then. Just something for us to look at next year's work plan, because like it's difficult for legislation to work when they're only meeting every 3 or 4 months. It's equally difficult to maintain one's knowledge base when we're meeting so infrequently. But if there's extra money in there, maybe for the remainder of this fiscal year, we could get a few more ledge and ground-based noise meetings in. That again depends on your 20 hours and how that all works.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mayor Schneider. Next, I do have Member Carvel.
Yeah, a question for you, Michelle, regarding the slide you had on page 32, which shows the budget versus the revised, and you had highlighted the 390K versus the budget of 133. The other line items were the same. What am I missing on why there's the difference there? You had the payment out that was due, but that would have, I thought, reduced the fund balance, not. Why are we so much larger, 257K higher?
Right. And so the difference was that the fund balance, and I'm sorry, I don't have the column and row number here, as adopted, was at 133,687, but what it actually was 655,092. So what I did in that line item that you're referring to is I took the 655, deducted the county reimbursable staff costs of the 311 minus the $36,000 owed to the trust fund, plus I think the 133. No, I didn't add that in. So that's that difference.
So this is the balance due to the fund for the staff time?
This is the available fund balance after those amounts have been authorized to be paid, and recognizing it's recognizing the payment of the invoice on page 39. That's the difference.
So the invoice that's due to the Roundtable?
Correct. That's the net amount after that's been paid available to you.
Okay, so that's the accounting for the difference between the budget and the actual amount.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other raised hands from members of the Roundtable. Anybody else have any comments or questions on this item? Okay, not seeing any. I'm going to go ahead and move on to public comments. Ms. Montes?
Thank you, Vice Chair. And as a reminder for anybody that is calling on phone, you may press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. But I do not have any hands raised from the public.
Thank you, Ms. Montes. So before I go ahead and entertain a motion, let me again thank everyone for their question, and Ms. Rodriguez and Ms. Montes for your due diligence and work with the county. Thank you for Ms. Asuza and Ms. Mejia for being with us as well. Appreciate you being here. With that, I'm gonna go ahead and be looking for a motion to approve the revised budget 2021 as shown on page 32 of the packet.
I move that we approve the budget as shown and thank Ms. Rodriguez for her fine work.
Thank you, Mr. Whitmer. Looking for a second.
Terry O'Connell will second.
Thank you, Member O'Connell, for your second. We do have a motion and a second. Ms. Rodriguez, if you would please take the roll call.
City and County of San Francisco Airport Commission.
Aye.
Thank you. Town of Atherton.
Aye.
Thank you. City of Belmar.
Aye.
City of Brisbane. Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you. City of Daly City.
Aye.
Thank you. City of Foster City.
Yes.
Thank you. City of Hillsborough.
Aye.
Thank you. And City of Menlo Park.
Yes.
Thank you. City of Millbrae.
Aye.
Thank you. City of Pacifica.
Aye.
Thank you. City of Portola Valley.
Yes.
Thank you. City of San Bruno.
Yes.
Thank you. City of South San Francisco.
Yes.
Thank you. Town of Woodside.
Yes.
Thank you. Your motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. So that I'm going to go ahead and move on to item number 5, approve legislative subcommittee support letters. Item number 5 is to authorize the membership chair to send 2 support letters. One to the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure on HR 4892, and the second to Congresswoman Spear in support of her proposed bills 2021. I'd like to turn this over to the Legislative Chair, Royce, to provide us a meeting summary and overview of the letter. Chair Royce, if you would please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have a area later in which we go through the meeting discussion itself, but the net consequences or actionable items that came out of our meeting on September 14th of the Legislative Subcommittee was to approve a letter to be sent in support of number 1, the 8 pieces of legislation that was authored by Congresswoman Spear. These are the same pieces that were authorized a year ago. They are being reintroduced. And Kathleen Wentworth is here to go through them with us if anybody has any questions, but they should be fairly familiar to everybody. The committee voted unanimously to support the issuance of this letter, and we're asking now for committee approval. Similarly, the second letter is to support a bill introduced by Congresswoman Ming. Again, a repeat of a bill that was introduced in the past, and I think this committee has supported in the past, although I don't recall whether or not the roundtable had a formal vote on it. Again, this is effectively establishing Office of Noise within the EPA, excuse me. And again, the committee unanimously approved that these letters be sent. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I would move the approval of these 2 letters to be sent on behalf of the roundtable to the respective audiences.
Thank you, Chair Royce. Is there any additional points or comments from a member of the Legislative Committee that would like to add to Mr. Royce? Okay, seeing none, and any members of the roundtable have any questions? I don't see any raised hands. Ms. Montes, is there any raised hands I'm missing? I don't think so. How about we move on to the public comments on this item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Montes?
I'm just giving it a few seconds because at the moment I do not see any hands raised. But just as a reminder to everyone, you may press *9 if you're calling by phone, or press the raise hand feature to indicate your desire to speak. But Mr. Chair, we do not have any hands raised. Thank you.
We do not have any. Thank you, Ms. Montes. Member Royce, did you make a motion or were you just recommending to the roundtable?
I did make a motion on behalf of the subcommittee.
Thank you,
Through the
Mr.
chair,
Royce.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mayor Schneider. I do have a motion by Member Royce and seconded by Member Schneider. Ms. Rodriguez, would you please take a roll call?
I will. City and County of San Francisco.
Aye, Ivar Airport.
Thank you. Town of Atherton.
Aye.
Thank you. City of Belmont. City of Brisbane.
Aye.
Thank you. City of Daly City.
Happily, aye.
Thank you.
And thank the Member Royce. Thank you.
City of Foster City.
Yes.
Thank you. City, Town of Hillsborough.
Aye.
Thank you. City of Menlo Park.
Yes.
Thank you. City of Millbrae.
Aye.
Thank you. City of Pacifica.
Aye.
Thank you. Town of Portola Valley.
Yes.
Thank you. City of South San Francisco.
Yes.
Thank you. Town of Woodside.
Yes.
Your motion passes.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Again,
For the
thank you to
chair, I
the
think you missed San Bruno, and I vote aye.
San Bruno. Thank you. Sorry about that.
No problem.
What is your vote?
Aye.
Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Apologies. Okay, thank you again to the Legislative Subcommittee for your work on these issues. We appreciate all your hard work. With that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to presentation item 6, Subcommittee and Ad Hoc Subcommittees update. I'm going to go ahead and now move on to item 6, the Technical Working Group 6A. The Technical Working Group met on September 22nd and discussed night hush aircraft procedure, the ground-based augmentation system, and SFO noise monitor methodology. Regarding night hush, the SFO roundtable and the Technical Working Group has a number of accomplishments in collaboration with the FAA, who had previously agreed to create an over-water flight path, reducing overflights on the peninsula following night and flight to Gobbs Waypoint. Operation to occur between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. HMMH staff and FAA working on expansion shoulder hours, gathering data over 3 months, and reviewing safety requirements. On peninsula overflights being at or above 13,000 altitude. So all these are really good things that I think will have a significant impact on relieving people. But I want to take a moment here to acknowledge and thank Congresswoman Spears for her advocacy on the night hush and for continuing to advocate for the folks who are impacted by airplane noise, and really asking the FAA to try harder, if you will, and explore other ways to expand those hours from 1 to 5. So Congresswoman Spears, and to that end, Congresswoman Spears and the San Francisco Roundtable had an additional meeting with FAA, and the FAA agreed to possible expansion of those shoulder hours, 1 additional hour earlier, which is 12 p.m. rather than 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. rather than 5 a.m. So we're looking at 2 additional hours, but those, of course, are subject to environmental review, which is currently underway by the FAA. Regarding ground-based augmentation system, or GBAS, SFO provided an update. The San Francisco Roundtable and SFO agreed on the GLS approach not to conduct an existing noise measurement and GBAS operation noise measurement. Staff and the subcommittee have provided recommendations on location. The innovative GLS procedure community flight procedure packages, 14 of them, have been published for public input. And I believe those are available on the SFO website. SFO Roundtable has begun review, and 1 point of clarification pending from SFO. The SFO Roundtable, and I have seen communication between our staff and the SFO today regarding this item, my understanding as well, I'm going to add my understanding to what I read and staff. The San Francisco Roundtable understood that there's no GBAS procedure would not be implemented if the wire noise increases. But there seems to be a change of approach on this topic. Perhaps SFO could provide more detail during presentation later in this agenda when the SFO going to be presenting, or at and at the next technical working group schedule in the week of 11/20. Regarding the SFO proposed noise monitoring system threshold, the SFO Roundtable Aviation Consultant reviewed the SFO Remote Monitoring Terminal Threshold Phase 2 report and determined that the methodology sound and the SFO recommended threshold noise level for the noise monitors is appropriate. Does anyone have any questions from the members or comments on this item? I do see Fabia from the FAA has her hand up. Good evening, Fabia, and welcome.
Hi, thank you, and good evening, everyone. I also just wanted to say a few words in regards to the extended hours that we're going to be looking at. First of all, the FAA also appreciates having worked with San Francisco Airport, the Roundtable, Congresswoman Spears' office, and the airlines. This has been definitely a group effort, and we're happy to see that we are going to be able to make some progress with the 1 to 5. As far as the extended hours, we are looking outside of the 1 to 5, but that's still going to require some coordination with the airlines. The airlines have not yet been briefed on that topic, and it is pending a meeting that San Francisco Airport is going to convene with both Oakland Airport and the airlines, including the FAA. But I just wanted to make you aware of that. Also, you indicated about the environmental work. If we do extend the hours, that's going to add at least another 2 to 4 or 2 to 6 months of environmental work. Thank you, Joe, of environmental work. So, it is a process, and I realize we want to keep this high level right now for the purpose of the briefing, but there are some steps that need to be taken among the groups. So that's what I wanted to share. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Appreciate your comments and being with us this evening. Next, I do have Mayor Schneider has her hand up.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I got a little confused. What exactly is happening between the 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. time frame and then the 1 to 5 time frame? Is this only on arrivals?
No, this is on departure on the night hush. The FAA came in with a proposal that they could use the night hush between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. And what Congresswoman Spear and the technical working group is asking the FAA to extend that to start, instead of starting at 1 a.m., to start earlier 1 hour at 12 a.m.
Okay.
And instead of ending at 5 a.m. to end at 6 p.m.
And could you remind me, night hush departures are on 1 or on 28 right?
I'm going to defer to someone else on that one. I do not have that answer.
Bert can answer. Hi.
Your question again, please.
The question is departure on night hush, is it on 1 or 28? Is that correct, Mayor Schneider?
Yes.
Night hush departs from both runway 28 and runway 1.
Okay, just thinking of...
Hush is Oakland.
I'm all for hush. Absolutely, just what the impacts might be if things are leaving more on 28 or more on 1 during that nighttime period, because I think Mayor Royce might agree with me. We're hearing more from our public that there are more flights within midnight, and I would say 2:15. There's a 2:14 flight that wakes me up every night, or almost every night, and that seems to be something new over the last month or two. But both of us are getting more comments from the public. But good to hear that hush can be used more for everybody else.
Thank you so much for your comment. I'm sorry, I do have Ms. Garcia has her hand up. I think she has a response to somebody. Go ahead, Ms. Garcia.
Yes, I'm sorry. I just also want to clarify the extended hours. We are looking at 12 to 1 and 5 to 6 to see how much we can expand the 1 to 5. The reason, just going back to the request from Congresswoman Spear, we went back and did some analysis and looked at the possibility of extending during those timeframes on either side of the 1 to 5. The reason why we're able to do that right now is due to the COVID numbers, but we're able to do this right now since the numbers are low. If we return to pre-COVID numbers, we will have to go back to the 1 to 5. I just want to be very clear on that. So we have an opportunity right now, but again, should the numbers go back to pre-COVID, then it will be strictly 1 to 5.
Thank you so much for that. That is a very important point, and this is exactly what we discussed with the FAA, and the FAA was very clear. Should the traffic resume to pre-COVID, that might be a different situation, and they would have to reevaluate, and most likely it'll be 1 to 5. Appreciate that, Ms. Garcia. Thank you.
Yeah, and Vice Chair, this is Joe. I'd just like to add to that our plan moving forward isn't to just come to you and say, hey, we got to do this. Our plan is to update you as traffic picks up, so that it's not a surprise. So the plan is to work with the roundtable on what the traffic looks like and those type of things. So it won't be a we got to do this now type thing. You guys should hopefully be well aware ahead of time.
Thank you, Mr. Burt. Appreciate that. I saw Ms. Wentworth's hand before, and I don't see it anymore. Kathleen, do you have anything you would like to add?
I was just going to comment on Mayor Schneider's concern to make clear that the use of the night hush should make no difference in the use of the runway. In other words, the runways in use, whether or not hush is in use, will remain as the same. It's once they're airborne, they will be going on a different pathway. So hopefully that answers your question a little bit, Ann.
May I comment? Thank
Please.
you, Kathleen. Yeah, I understand. I think in my dream of dreams, if there were a way to take 28 right takeoffs more often than ones, that might save the sleep of the people of Millbrae, Burlingame, and Hillsborough. But again, that's probably because there are fewer flights now, although I think we're back to 70% of normal. It's just a dream, Kathleen, that there would be less backblast, low frequency noise in the middle of the night. But thank you.
Okay, thank you. I do see Member O'Connell got her hand up. Member O'Connell?
Thank you, through the chair. What I was going to say is that this procedure was really to get the planes flying up and out the gate and to make sure that they go through the waypoint before they turn back over the peninsula. So while it may not have any change of runway usage, it should have less noise once they make the turn and come back to head south or to head east. It may end up having a little bit more noise for Brisbane at times, depending on how tight they make that turn and how steep they make the climb. But we're hoping that it's going to have ramifications to help everyone and put more noise up and out over the gate, get them higher before they come back down the peninsula.
Thank you for that clarification and explanation. I appreciate it. Okay, anybody else? I don't see any hands up at this point, so I'm gonna go ahead. I think Ms. Wentworth, anything else from Congresswoman Spears?
No, thank you. I think you all received copies of all of the legislation, and I think Mayor Royce covered that very well.
Okay,
Yes.
and the FAA made their comments. I don't see any other raised hands from the FAA. Thank you for your comments. With that, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the Legislative Subcommittee, item 4B. Anything else, Chairman Royce, do you want to add that's not covered in the agenda item that we discussed earlier?
You're muted, Al.
There, thank you. I think I would know that by now, huh? Anyway, I would like to add just a couple comments. And first of all, thank the other members of the committee, Pamela and Ann, for their input and participation. We actually was a public meeting, and so there was public involved, and you should have a recording that anybody can look at if they want to get into the details. The agenda was primarily around federal legislation, and the three topics we talked about from the federal perspective were the 8 bills proposed by Congresswoman Spear, which we've already resulted in an action item. We also talked about the bill 4890, House Bill 4892, which was proposing a new office of noise abatement and funding for it within the EPA. We also explored HR 3684, which is the infrastructure bill, and if there's any benefits to our communities with respect to any provisions in it. And frankly, thought most of it would be going to the airport, which would benefit us, but not the communities per se. We did not get into detail on anything missing with respect to any of the legislation, but subsequent to the meeting, there were some discussions, and I think Ann will follow up within the ground-based noise committee, is whether or not there's some things we can do from a ground-based noise perspective that maybe the Congresswoman would be interested in discussing and vetting. And I know Kathleen has already looked at that for a bit. So we did spend a fair amount of time on that. The other thing, this was our third meeting and our last meeting for the year, but we also talked about topics for the next meeting. And I would urge any members that would like topics to be discussed by the legislative subcommittee to let me know about them, or any member of the committee, so we can put on the agenda. Specifically, we talked about anything that could be done at the state or local level that might benefit our communities and help mitigate the noise, and particularly around Title 21. And I know County Supervisor Dave Pine had mentioned that at one time. We wanted to get more familiar with it and see exactly how it worked. And so the next meeting, that will be a topic of discussion. It's not in this year's work plan, but it is in the 4-year work plan. And we do think it could be very helpful to us to better understand it and see what opportunities exist. We also spent a little time talking about whether or not we should be delving into legislation around supersonic aircraft. Some of you may have seen that CBS report, talked about the development of supersonic aircraft and the fact that some airlines, including United, have already placed orders for them. And so we'd like to get ahead of that with respect to how we control that, because that could be a noise nightmare, frankly, if it's not managed correctly. And we talked a bit about unmanned aircraft and should we be given a thought about any legislation around that. So those are future topics. And again, I would urge any member of this committee to let us know if there's other topics they think the legislative subcommittee should consider. I also want to thank Kathleen Wentworth, Brian Perkins, and Sarah Affeldt of the Congresswoman's office for coming and presenting a very thorough and detailed explanation of all the bills in the process that one has to follow to get them through Congress. And I would urge you to support through letters, through lobbying, through people you know in Congress with respect to these bills. They don't get passed easily. We have a very deliberative, some would say slow process, and it takes a lot of grassroots movement to get any kind of movement. And I think the Congresswoman would appreciate it, and I know we would appreciate it. So that would be my plea, is take time to write a letter to some congressman outside our area and urge them to look at these bills and be responsive to them. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that's my report.
Thank you, Member Royce. A very thorough report, and also for all the hard work that you do. And I have to add my voice to you in thanking the Congresswoman, number one. Number two, it just emphasized the importance of these legislations, because really, from my time on the roundtable and following this issue, to make any real meaningful change, it has to come with the legislation. So I understand the value of the committee that you are chairing, as well as the work that Congresswoman is doing. Definitely, we need to have some, if not all, hopefully, all these legislations eventually passing, so we could have the meaningful change that we need. Thank you so much for that. Moving on to item 4C, membership expansion.
I'm sorry, through the chair, only because Director Royce gave me the opportunity. This is really a thank you to Michelle Rodriguez, because she did, we did get some feedback that the Congresswoman and Congresswoman Eshu's bills were mainly in flight. I didn't interpret them that way. I can see 2 or 3 of them that actually have a relationship with the closer in cities. But Michelle took the time to draft up a letter that has gone out, correct, Michelle? Life's been so busy lately, with a couple of
Yes.
comments and the request that, and I would hope that in December at Ground-Based Noise, we'll look at some things that might be specific, more specific. But anything that has to do with health, curfews, and better measurements, opening up the different weights of how sound is measured, all help with low frequency noise. But Michelle took the lead. Thank you, Michelle.
Very good. Thank you so much for your comment. And with that, I don't see any hands raised. I'm going to go ahead and move on to item 4C, membership expansion ad hoc subcommittee. I'm going to be very brief on this one. Included in your packet is a membership expansion ad hoc subcommittee agenda for September 29th meeting. And our next meeting is scheduled to be on Wednesday, October 27th. Does anyone from the membership have any questions or comments on the subcommittee's work, any subcommittee? Okay, let me see here. Okay, I see a couple hands. Mayor Schneider, you still have your hands up, or you would like to speak again? Okay, that is gone. Member Widmer.
Hi, so on the discussion on equity, it mentions that Palo Alto is running these noise tests. My understanding is Stanford runs them for a number of communities, and that's who's been running the noise tests. Also, to comment on, I appreciate all the time and the quickness that you guys are addressing this. I just looking at the schedule and looking at when, how it might dovetail in with the total membership hearing your final report and making a decision on it. It looks like we may miss the first meeting of the year potentially because things look pretty tight. Are you, these were estimate dates. Do you feel very comfortable with these?
Mr. Rodriguez, would you like to take that question?
I think so. And I think that the next scheduled meeting is October the 27th. Then we're going to have a public meeting. I think that November meeting is going to change to public if they could agree to content at the next meeting. And so I think you are correct that we would return at the meeting in January.
Okay. So, because I had the question on what non-public versus no public. I got the impression when this was formed that the other roundtable members are not invited to these meetings. Is that correct? Or are we?
There are ad hoc committee members that were selected and attending, if
Right.
that's what you mean. And
Yeah.
then if we have a speaker or people who are providing us data or have to answer questions about data, then they can attend.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do not see any other raised hands. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next item, item number 7, Chairman's update, delivered by yours truly. At the next roundtable member meeting of December 1st, we will be taking a motion on roundtable chair and vice chair. Please do consider whether you are interested in these roles. If you have any questions, please call staff or the existing members in that role. We definitely would like to see members moving up to the leadership roles on the roundtable. Regarding the FPPC, as you know, there were some ruling from the FPPC that members of the roundtable need to file Form 700. Earlier this year, the FPPC Commission made that determination, and the county, San Mateo County Council has appealed that determination, and we are waiting for the appeal ruling. This affects, as I mentioned, members Form 700 at the end of the year, among other things. So we'll keep you updated as we hear back from the county council. With that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to item number 8, San Francisco Airport Commission update. An update from the SFO Airport Director. Please, Mr. Sotero, I believe, will be presenting. please update us on airport operation and any clarification you could provide on GBAS and noise and how you are currently interpreting noise increases as part of that project. Thank you all for the collaboration, information, and data provided by the airport to the roundtable. Mr. Sotero, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, all. I have a few updates here. First, just to talk about what we're seeing in terms of traffic. And as everyone knows, our summer travel season is our busiest season. We are seeing a tapering off in travel, as we typically do. Also likely an impact related to the Delta variant and a lot of regulation on flight activity from different countries. So we're seeing kind of a pullback from the numbers we were seeing in peak summer. We were looking at about almost 48,000 outbound passengers a day. Now we're averaging in the neighborhood of 28 to 30,000 outbound passengers. There was a comment about operations, and I think from an operations standpoint, we're seeing about 50% of flight operations. So last year at this time, our pre-COVID, we may have had 1,400 daily operations, and now we're in the 700 to 800 figure of daily operations. So we are operating at about half of the aircraft activity that we saw pre-COVID. Good news on the international front, at least in terms of the return of international flight activity with the federal government allowing for visitors to the US to fly into the US as long as they can show proof of vaccination. There is no set date on that yet, but we understand that is targeted for early November. It does help support our holiday travel season. We are seeing some international carriers adjusting capacity accordingly once that official announcement is made and that a date is established. Related to testing and vaccination, as you all are aware, we've been very aggressive in testing. We continue to have 5 sites at the airport and are supporting testing to various destinations for employees and to various destinations that require quarantine if testing is not available. We are doing continue to do about 3,000 to 5,000 tests a week. And then last week, we implemented a new operations bulletin requiring all airport on-site workers to be fully vaccinated. We took the step, we're the first airport to take this step. And this is just, I think, a reflection of the seriousness with which our region has responded. And following in the federal requirement for contracted services, we felt this was an appropriate thing to do. We're seeing more and more airlines also follow along in this same approach to things. So we probably have 35,000 workers at SFO. A large proportion of them are on site. They will be required to be vaccinated. We've set a deadline of December 1st for that. We do look at medical and religious exemptions, and we'll judge those in accordance with the established protocols. We're also doing some interesting work with the Center for Disease Control to enable real-time detection of any new variants that may enter the United States. And so we are testing about 3 to 5% of all international arriving flights. The CDC is with our partnership, and we'll be working with them with 2 other airports in the US, Newark and JFK, I believe, to track any possible variant transmission. And also we are preparing for booster shots. I've reported previously on a partnership with Safeway for vaccinations at the airport, and now we're ramping up for booster shots for all airport workers. And we continue to offer vaccinations for travelers into the airport. We have vaccinated people from over 70 countries coming to SFO and getting their J&J shot at SFO. We do have a new airline that is announcing service from Vietnam, Bamboo Airways. It will be the first direct flight from Vietnam to the US. They're flying Hanoi to San Francisco nonstop. They are going through a process to satisfy their certification requirements. They had their first flight that was successful, I think, last week. We do not have confirmed times for their schedule yet, but we'll certainly keep you informed when we know more specifics about their schedule. Runway 28 right construction project, that has completed on schedule. And yesterday we opened the last phase of the runway that had been closed off for completing the work. So that work is complete, very low level of impact to operations, and didn't cause the kinds of delays that we saw when we did the 28 left project. I really appreciate all the support we got from the FAA to make that project happen and accelerate it about a year ahead of schedule. And, to talk about GBAS, and I know we're hearing some public comment about the innovative procedures and potentially not representing a significant enough improvement. And, that's a critical part of it. This is a largely a noise reduction initiative. And for the reason we took it on, that we felt that that was an important initiative to move forward. But, this is an incremental process for us. And we did get through the overlays, and now we're getting into the innovative procedures as a first step. And there's a second phase of innovative procedures. But really, we just need everyone's patience as we build on success after success of these new procedures. And you continue to have my assurance that we are only going to be pursuing any procedures that provide a benefit to the community. Anyone that has a negative impact to any community or shifting of noise, we will not pursue. I think we've had great feedback, I think, on the initial community flight procedures packages, and we really appreciate everyone's time to review and comment on the packages. And it's there will be some flight testing coming up. We appreciate our airline partners that are supporting us in GBAS. United will be flying procedures or have flown them in the simulators, and we're looking forward to some real world flight evaluations this month, and we will certainly keep you informed of those results. Around noise insulation and our replacement second chance initiative, we'll begin the physical construction on eligible homes that have their noise insulation replacement due to normal wear and tear. This is an initiative the airport is funding 100%. We'll also be presenting to you a new online tool for residents to check the status of their applications for both replacement or the second chance initiative. And then we're aware now of a development that is proposed for Tanforan, and it's very concerning, a development of 3,500 homes by San Bruno within the 70 dB noise contour. This is certainly defined as incompatible land use, and so we're very concerned about the location for residential development, including low-income housing. And we just think this is not the right direction. We understand the pressures we're all under around housing, but this is the wrong place to put it, and potentially creating a lot more conflict with the community and subjecting them to additional noise. So we're very concerned and would be glad to talk further with San Bruno about possible alternatives. Okay, and with that, I'd be glad to take any questions.
Thank you, Director Sotero, for your report and for the update. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for the roundtable members if they have any questions or comments. I do see Ms. Rodriguez have her hand up, and please, Ms. Rodriguez, go ahead.
Just thank you very much for your report. And I just had one clarification question. When you say we shall not recommend any innovative procedure which has a negative impact to any community, can you clarify for me what that means, the negative impact part of it, please?
Yes, from a noise impact level, meaning anything that increases noise to a community or shifts noise to another community, we determine that to be a negative impact.
Thank you.
So I'm going to go ahead and follow up on that, Michelle, Director Sotero. So is there like a certain level of decibel that would be acceptable, or are we talking any noise increase would kind of have you take another look at that procedure?
We committed right out of the gate that this was a large part of the initiative is community benefit, both in terms of innovative procedures that potentially have community benefit in terms of the actual flight path and altitudes, but also from a reduction of delay, which, as everyone knows, when foul weather hits, we get flights that start piling in after midnight, 1, 2, 3 a.m. So that's the perspective with which we pursued GBAS. And so I think this is, we just need to be very open and clear about the data. We need to do all the appropriate collection of data, satisfy the community of the validity of the data, and then make decisions. From our perspective, we're going to ask for a lot of community input as we move along to help us judge impact. But we are looking at it in terms of a decibel level that increases in any given community.
Okay, thank you for that answer. Ms. Rodriguez, I see you want to jump in or no? Okay. Member O'Connell, I see your hands raised up.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to follow up on my prior questions, both in the subcommittee and in these meetings on the missing Title 21 reports from 2009 to 2016, so that that information can be given to this group and the information contained reviewed. So I would just like to ask the director and the SFO team to make those available and let us know when they think that that might happen.
Glad to do that.
Mr. Sotero, I think maybe I asked just so you understand, I asked our consultant HMMH if in their touch points with Caltrans, if they could get some feedback on whether we all needed to do this. And I would really like HMMH to respond on this topic, because that was why I pulled back in not proceeding on this. So Jean, could you please give us an update on that, please, and help to clarify this point?
Certainly. So my understanding is that Caltrans wants these reports and going forward to see, that there's what the status is in terms of noise impact. And so it's not clear the purpose of going back and fulfilling the reports that have not been provided to Caltrans at this time. Caltrans doesn't say whether they're needed or not. They won't say whether they're needed or not. But I would just question the purpose of having San Francisco go back and create those reports and provide them to this. What would the outcome be from those reports? So something maybe to take up with the technical working group or outside of this, but you really need to look at, see why you'd be wanting to have those reports actually brought forth at this time, since they're aged reports and it's really about monitoring progress going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Reindell. I do see Mayor Schneider's hand up, and then Member O'Connell.
Let me see if I can provide why it might be helpful. Part of what's happening with ground-based noise is a belief, especially by people in Burlingame and Hillsborough, of noise changes that go back, I would have said 2 years, but with COVID, I think it's now 4 years, which we think may have had timing to do with the extension of the runways, the removal of the old fire station, et cetera. Along that same time, those monitors are also picking up other noise inputs. So trying to recreate what was happening prior to those changes at San Francisco is part of what we were hoping to do by going and getting the old data on low frequency noise. And has that low frequency noise increased once the runways moved? I'll throw an additional one in. I say, since the Hilton was built, I firmly believe that it's capturing noise, whether it's from runways 1 departures or 28 departures. And that curved building is collecting noise and shooting it almost in a straight line to Millbrae City Hall, my house as an example, and then up the hill and up to Hillsborough. It seems self-evident when you're living here that that's what's happening. So trying to find out what the noise levels were like prior to the construction, or at least when the outside of that building was put on. And then with my another hat trying to get Caltran to update us with the work that they've done on 101, which that noise then contributes to the baseline noise in all of our communities. So we are not only just getting the airplane noise, but it's on top of the road noise. So having that historical data, to me, once we get to look at it and dive into it, who knows what we may find is making things better or making things worse. Does that help you, Terry?
Please go ahead, Member O'Connell.
So I'm not sure that is really the reason, but certainly it could be one of the reasons. But things changed with many things for noise in our communities, and without having that baseline going back to when those reports were required by law and by agreement with the airport. It's hard to tell what information they're going to shed on the situation of noise. But it was a legally required item that they needed to do. And so I think we need to hold them to that agreement so that we have that information and can try to see if it sheds any light on how noise has shifted during those years. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that comment.
Vice Chair, can I make another comment real quick?
Yes, please, Mr. Rondell, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a reminder that the quarterly noise reports are intended to determine the location of the noise impact boundary, which is by definition the 65 CNEL boundary. So that's item number one. So that's what the reports do, whether that information I would contend that probably doesn't help with the backblast noise and that you're referring to. But I would also like to add that San Francisco has all the data that goes back all those years. They just haven't provided the reports that determine the location of the noise impact boundary, which again is the 65 CNEL boundary. That is the purpose of those, is to show that they remain to be a zero noise impact boundary through the
Respectfully, if they have all that information, there's no reason that they cannot provide those reports.
So my commitment is to go back to the team and we'll find the data, and I can't imagine there's a compelling reason why not to provide the information. And so we will respond to you shortly.
Okay. Thank you for that commitment, Director Sotero. Any other members have any questions? I don't see any raised hands. I do have one quick question to Director Sotero. Congratulations on Bamboo Airlines. My understanding is the airport does not set the time of the flights. So could you help us understand how does that work? So if Bamboo Airlines tomorrow come in and say we want to land in SFO at 2 in the morning, is that how it works?
Yeah, thanks for that question. You know, what we did is we have our international incentive program, and it's an incentive for international flights, air service development incentive program, to provide service to unserved destinations. And so airlines that approach us with a new route to an unserved, new airline, or not even a new airline, an existing airline to an unserved currently from SFO destination, we will waive their landing fees. What we've done in response to all of the community's concerns and our own concerns about evening hours is we have made that subject to flights not occurring during the late night hours. And so that is part of the obligation they have, is to not fly. I can't confirm the hours, but it's certainly, it's 12 to 7, or I think even earlier than that, potentially, that window of no flight activity for these flights.
Thank you. That's very comforting, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Anybody else has any questions to Director Sotero? I don't see it. I do see Mr. Ganon got his hand up, please. Bert?
Yes, Mr. Chair. We have a couple more slides to augment Director Satero's presentation, if I may.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Please go ahead. Sorry about that.
My apologies. Thanks, Bert.
So I wanted to give a quick update on the SFO GBAS. We have several portable monitor sites and permanent sites that we've selected and identified for measuring the noise for the upcoming United Airlines flights, flying the baseline and innovative approach procedures. We'll also be looking at the current procedures that are out there and have some baseline noise for the area we don't right now. Noise measurement reports will be made available at the link below. And we're continuing to seek approval for some or all of the 14 innovative approach procedure community flight procedure packets. Looking for people to dig into those and see what they can bring up. And if they have any questions, go ahead and send us an email at the SFO GBAS link through flysfo.com.
When you said you were looking at it, you said you see URL below. Did you think you're showing us a slide right now?
I'm sorry, I thought I was sharing a screen. Yes, just.
No, nothing yet.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you for asking. 1 moment. Now, do we have a screen?
No.
Still no. Oh, interesting. Well,
Angela, does he need authority or he's got authority?
Yes, he should be able to automatically share screen. Excuse me, I'm not sure what.
Click share screen. Went ahead and chose the screen and hit share.
Now it's happening.
That's working.
All right. Yes, things changed for me too. So anyway, we talked about the GBAS update. Here's the link where we'll have where the innovative procedures may be found on the website. And we know a lot of people have already been going there. We appreciate that. And that email address, sfo.gbas@flysfo.com, is where the comments can be made. Appreciate that. For our portable noise monitoring reports, we've updated those and we're putting the new portable noise monitoring reports and bringing those up to speed. So we have a full cadre of those. We've been quite busy redoing the old format into the new. Has some enhanced legibility, clearer graphics, images, and they're alphabetically labeled by section so that when you go to the appendix, you can see exactly what's being discussed. It should be most helpful there. And also an expanded glossary of terminology. The Fly Quiet reports, we are very close to finally getting those back in order. When we updated our system, we lost the ability to generate those, and we brought that back. I've been working very hard with our vendor, EnviroSuite, to get those done. I hope to have them totally complete by the end of the month. Our noise insulation program update. A lot of work's been going on here. We brought the noise insulation program into our regular website so that we can see the information about application. We also have it tailored so that homeowners can see currently what's going on with their participation and access the timeline with next steps. So the eligibility is there. We're going to be enhancing it. The checking of the process is a big thing, and it's going to be a bit more robust as we go forward with it. The program progress reporting for both initiatives, the replacement initiative and the second chance. And then the, just so you know, that the first SFO replacement initiative home will start construction this month. Very happy to report that. This is what the couple of screenshots, the one on the right, which you would see as you logged into the noise portal. You might be familiar with the general info, flights over area, and those tabs in GBAS. but we also added in the noise insulation program. And once you pop in an address and log into your area, you can go ahead and see the information in detail with more tabs. If you don't put that in, you only see a couple of tabs. The 6 that you see below the noise insulation program here would appear when you actually put in the address. And then following on with the director's comments regarding the Tanforan reimaging, SFO is very concerned about the 3,200 units being proposed at the Tanforan Mall, which would be within the 70 decibel CMEL contour, directly beneath the primary departure path. If it proceeds, these residents would be exposed to extreme, persistent overflight noise. This also appears to be the densest housing development proposed in such close proximity to a major U.S. airport in modern history. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Gannon. Okay. If you wouldn't mind, there you go. Perfect. Thank you so much. So that is for that part of the meeting. Moving on to item, let me make sure first I don't have any members that with their hands up. Mr. Member Woodmer.
Yes, I don't recall seeing those charts in the pack. If they were indeed there, could you tell me what page they're on? And if they're not, could perhaps they get sent out in the next week or so that we could have them?
I just requested them and I'll make sure to get them to the members.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? I don't see any hands up, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to item 9, FAA update. We have with us FAA Supervisory Senior Advisor, Ms. Garcia, to update the roundtable on the status of the GBN letter to the FAA Director on the AEDT tool update to include ground-based noise, and on the status of the Community Engagement Officer, whose role is to coordinate, manage, and implement all community outreach activities related to aviation issues in their assigned area and to deliver an effective community outreach program for the Regional Administrator's Office. Ms. Garcia, take it away.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I appreciate addressing the group again. Regarding the GBN letter, as recent as yesterday, I heard from our Office of Environment and Energy that they are working on the letter. They expect to have a response within a couple of weeks. As you know, the letter was directed to the FAA administrator, and this one, because of the national implications, it is rightfully in headquarters. That typically takes a little bit longer than when it comes directly to the region, so we hope to have something for you in the near future. And, I try to update Michelle as often as possible. She is quite diligent in asking the status and ensuring, that we received the letters. So we'll continue to communicate with her in the coming weeks, and hopefully we'll get you a response soon. Aside from that, I really don't have more about the letter. At this time, also, I'd like to invite Alana Jarris to turn on her camera. Alana is the newest member of the FAA Western Service Center family. She is the Community Engagement Officer that comes Vice Marina Landis. We do appreciate all of the work and effort that Marina paid in support of all of our efforts here, but we also want to welcome Alana. We're excited to have her. She is here on her 3rd day, so it is quite the warm welcome from all of you, the first roundtable she attends. We are not expecting her, we're trying to get her up to speed on everything, but considering the timing of the roundtable, we wanted to make sure that you were able to just put the face with the name and know that we have somebody that you will be working with permanently as long as we have her. So I'd like to invite Alana to say just a hello to you and a few words if she'd like.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks for the nice introduction, Fabi. As she's mentioned, my name is Alana Jarris. Pretty new here, just on my first week. Thank you for the opportunity to listen in. I just recently moved here from Japan. I worked for the Department of Defense for about the past 15 years. I've done a lot of community engagement in various positions and a lot of noise-related issues and aviation issues in Japan specifically. So again, thank you, and I'm looking forward to working with each and every one of you.
Thanks, Alana. And that's all we have from the FAA today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Welcome, Ms. Jarris. Looking forward to seeing you at our meetings. Ms. Garcia, thank you so much for your report and for your continued support on GBAS. Please let us know when the draft environmental analysis is complete on GBAS and GLS approach. And I'm sure Michelle, like you said, is pretty consistent in following up. We appreciate your working and collaboration with her as well. Any questions from our members regarding the FAA report? Let me get there. I do not see any hands up. I don't see any. One more call. Nobody. Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Garcia, for your report again. Then with that, I'm going to go ahead and move to item number 10, members' communications and announcements. Members, any comments or announcements? I do see Mayor Schneider has her hand up. Mayor Schneider?
Thank you. Just a clarification. Mr. Guinong mentioned that he had been at my house and it was a request from the airport to set up one of the new sound devices and to calibrate it in my backyard, knowing the type of sound that comes into this part of Millbrae. So because someone has written a letter in the past, it was not my request, it was a request from the airport, and it was simply to calibrate the device. It was here for a couple of weeks and then it is off somewhere else. And there was no plan to ever put a permanent device in my yard for self-serving my own noise situation. And the other comment that Bert said was, yes, I understand that these monitors have, as well as the old ones, have historical as well as current data on low frequency noise. My comment about the questions are when the public files a complaint about low frequency noise, it has to be matched to a plane to show up in the noise report, or at least that's how it was in the past. So I just don't want to get another complaint letter saying Anne is being self-serving when instead I offered my backyard for the art of calibration. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, anyone else from the membership has any announcements or comments? Not seeing any. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to, this is where I'm gonna take some public comments on the presentation. Any member of the public would like to speak on the presentation, please raise your hand. I'm gonna turn it over to Ms. Montez to explain that a little bit.
Thank you, Chair Handy. So as a reminder, if you wish to speak on presentation items 6 through 10, please use the raise hand feature through Zoom, or you may press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. And I do see 2 hands raised. Give me 1 second. Janet did have to jump off, so I'm going to share my timer. And I will first call on Ms. Mary Jo Fremont, followed by Mark Schull. Ms. Fremont, please accept this request to unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
On GBAS, I hope that the roundtable will clarify soon the formal decision process that they'll use to recommend and vote on the Group 1 approaches, because it's unclear how and when it will happen. I also want to thank SFO for deploying the noise monitors to record the actual noise impacts of the upcoming GBAS test flights. We very much appreciate SFO's data-driven approach and look forward to seeing the test results. My other comments on about the recent expansion membership meeting. The agenda listed an update from Representative Spear's staff, and I hope that Representative Spear supports representation of cities highly impacted by SFO, regardless of their congressional district, given that current roundtable members are in 3 different districts. I also noticed that several documents were used for the meeting, including a letter from Representative Eshoo, a comparison of roundtables, some SFO traffic data, to name a few. However, the documents were not included in today's packet. We understand that the subcommittee discussions are not public information. However, letters from cities or congressional representatives Comparison of roundtables, flight data, population data are not discussions. They should not be confidential information. These documents should be visible to the roundtable members who are not on the subcommittee and to the public as well. In his membership expansion update at the February roundtable meeting this year, Chair already stated, and I quote, "We'll make sure it's very transparent and everybody knows what we're doing. Therefore, in the spirit of transparency, I urge the roundtable to make all materials presented at the September ad hoc meeting public as soon as possible and post them on the roundtable website." And finally, a quick update on the Santa Clara Santa Cruz roundtable. If it does not find a new fiscal agent, that roundtable will cease to exist, and this could happen as early as December 31st. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fremont.
Thank you, Ms. Fremont. I will now call on Mr. Mark Scholl, followed by Jennifer. Mr. Scholl, please accept this request to unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Thank you. Mark Scholl from Palo Alto. I'd like to comment on the materials from the ad hoc committee on membership expansion. First, I think it's reasonable that membership should be based on non-biased objective criteria. For example, are people significantly affected by SFO traffic or not? And if so, where is the boundary? The southern boundary for SFO traffic is actually quite easy, as there is a bright line just south of Palo Alto that divides SFO airspace and San Jose airspace. County boundaries simply don't map to SFO and SJC airspace. The three traffic routes over Palo Alto, Surfer, Bodega, and Pirate, are all San Francisco and very heavy. Second, there are simply no other roundtable alternatives to the SFO roundtable when it comes to SFO traffic. This is true, separate of the SCSC roundtables losing its Cities Association sponsorship at the end of the year. Yes, SFO could step up and sponsor it, but SFO already has a roundtable, and how would it arbitrate if there were separate recommendations on SFO traffic from two different roundtables? Another issue that appears in the agenda is, will non-county members take focus away from member issues that are not being addressed? There's no reason for this to happen, and many reasons to believe that the opposite can be true. And lastly, I didn't get the bullet point that Palo Alto is, quote, self-represented by an aviation consultant. I don't see how this has any bearing on SFO membership. And factually, the consultant was hired after and in response to the FAA initiatives and creation of the Select Committee, neither of which the city had any direct representation on or input into. The consultant was temporary, and the purpose was essentially to help Palo Alto figure out what the heck was going on. I sincerely believe that allowing Palo Alto to join the roundtable and perhaps others significantly objectively affected by SF overflights will make this organization stronger and able to achieve more for everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Scholl.
Thank you, Mr. Scholl. I will now call on Jennifer, followed by Darlene Gapley. Jennifer, please accept this request to unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Hi, thank you, Jennifer Landisman. This is a comment about the director's report about GBAS. Thank you for the update. So the General Accountability Office report that was mentioned makes it pretty clear that the FAA considers their role and responsibility regarding noise very strictly within the framework of FAA Order 1051F. That goes both for pre-implementation and post-implementation outreach. This means that if and when the FAA prints a Cadex for GBAS overlays, the FAA's responsibility to mitigate GBAS ends. I appreciate that SFO seems to be getting a head start on what one would call a post-implementation plan, but this is 100% outside the FAA's obligations from the for the FAA to address noise or GBAS. With a Cadex, the public is basically getting the cheap seats compared to having the FAA fulfill their obligation to pursue least impact alternatives within a higher level review than a Cadex. So today, we submitted a letter from Sky Posse Palo Alto explaining the concerns with Cadex. At the minimum, I implore that you please ask the FAA to share their noise screening to arrive at the Cadex declaration, if that's what they publish, or even ahead, because ideally it should be prevented. And as I mentioned at the technical committee, your body should also be prepared to explain why the GBAS project is being carried out as it is by taking out the least the pursuit of least impact alternatives outside the initial publication to a separate process. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Landisman. And we did share the letter that was submitted from the Sky Posse Palo Alto with the entire membership, as well as the FAA. So I will now call on Ms. Yapley. Please accept this request to unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Per page 86 of the packet, the following comment was listed for the membership meeting, that the city of Palo Alto hired an aviation consultant to advise them and conducts their own noise studies. I don't know what the exact wording was, but the first part of this sentence may be misunderstood without context. Indeed, the city of Palo Alto has infrequently used a technical consultant in reaction to something that may impact us. When the SCSE roundtable did not exist, was not meeting, or had stated they would not cover the topic. In the absence of having representation on an operational roundtable, Palo Alto and other cities wanting advice have no choice but to hire a technical consultant. Regarding the second part of the sentence, the city of Palo Alto conducts their own noise studies. There may be confusion between the MONA project and the city of Palo Alto. The MONA project is a research effort at Stanford that addresses the entire San Francisco Bay Area. MONA data collection and analysis are intended to benefit the entire Metroplex, with the longer-term goal to have their technology available for use in other areas and metroplexes. The MONA project is not affiliated with City of Palo Alto or any other Bay Area governmental entity. The MONA project does not purchase the noise monitors, which are about $1,000. Volunteer residents inside and outside of Palo Alto have bought their own noise monitors and installed them on their properties. The recorded noise data are analyzed by MONA scientists, engineers, and students. MONA encourages residents who are interested in supporting new noise monitors to contact them. In fact, I understand one new monitor outside of Palo Alto may be installed shortly at a new residence. You can contact MONA at noise-monitor@mona-project.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yapley. And Chairman, we have one more hand raised from members of the public. So I will call on Ms. Rebecca Ward to accept this request, unmute her microphone and begin speaking.
Hi, I'll be quick. As it relates to the expansion of membership, roundtable membership, just listening to the comments, I do think that you would benefit from having more transparency and maybe opening it up to the public, because a number of people are trying to understand what the bullets on the summary really relate to. And I do think just overall transparency is generally better, particularly when you're talking about something like this. And so that's my comment. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ward.
Thank you, Ms.
Okay.
Ward. And Mr. Chair, we do not have any more hands raised. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Montes. With that, I'm going to go ahead and move to item 11, which basically I would move to adjourn this meeting, which is at 9:07 p.m. Thank you all for your participation and for your engagement. Appreciate everybody on the call. Thank you to staff again for all the hard work that you do. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.